Well, I think homelessness should be an adjective, first of all. It's not a noun. People find themselves in situations where they're homeless, but I don't like it. I don't think it's accurate to say they're homeless people. They all find their way there for different reasons. I think a lot of people don't have support systems, don't have the resources. If I lost my job, I would be a while before I found myself in the need of a shelter because I have family, I have friends that have resources that would allow them to take me in. I think for people that find themselves knocking on the door of the Bangor Area Homeless Shelter, it really truly is the safety net when they have nothing else.
Before I came to the shelter, I was going through some trials, some tribulations in my life. I was an addict, and I had been an addict for probably 13 years. I was an alcoholic. Every day I was drinking, so I wanted to quit drinking. I lived in Bangor, but I was in Connecticut. I was a dancer, and I traveled trying to get by, and it was a job to take care of my habit and a job to just get me through. When you are an addict, you will do almost anything to be able to support your habit and to try to escape from the reality that you're running from. I didn't want to do it anymore. I was getting older. I have a child, and wasn't able to pay my rent and wasn't able to find a good job because I had never had a job. I lived a life where I was just roaming from one place to another. So I lost my apartment, and I ended up coming here. I had seen this place many times, drove by it many times, didn't really know what it was. Knew people were homeless, but didn't understand what homelessness was until I became one. So it was a reality almost to see people that had also struggled with alcoholism or struggled with just paying their bills or paying their rent. The first day I came in, they had me come in, fill out some information, a lot of personal things, and then come back later on to see if there was a bed available. I didn't have to wait long, and I came in that night. I was fortunate. They continued to do my intake and get more information about me and get to know me and see what resources they could help me with, what I wanted to do, what was my goal to get myself out of the circumstance that I was in. One of the staff members had mentioned the Career Center to me. I didn't know what the Career Center was. The Career Center is a facility that will help people with jobs and research, kind of directing them or redirecting them into maybe a goal or a path that they want to do, a career that would work for them. I got enrolled into the WIA program, which is the Workforce Investment Act, which while I was here at the shelter, I ended up going to that program, and I got accepted into UTC and became a CNA. I was here in the shelter 2.5 months, but I got through it, and I did it, graduated. Trying to find a job in that field has been trying and been hard. And I ended up applying for a campus aide position at the Hope House in Bangor, and I got it. And then 2 weeks later, I applied for a full-time position here at the Bangor Area Shelter, and I got it. Every day I work with people that have went through the same thing I went through. My job and my goal every day is to wake up and to help people that I work with know that there's hope, that this is only a moment, that this is only one day, and to take it day by day and to look to the future. Patience isn't always just waiting. It's your attitude during your wait. You have to have a good attitude and be hopeful and be understanding that it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a little while. And it's inner strength. That's the biggest thing. Finding that inner strength and finding the way to get through the weight of where your next step is. As much as it sounds crazy, I actually found my happiness here at the shelter.
If people don't use the shelter, it's pretty difficult to determine where they may end up sleeping. We run into various situations where someone will come in and they have kids or they've been sleeping in their car. We might not have a bed, and we're kind of limited as to where we can send them. We work with crisis services at CHCS very closely to try to figure out what we're supposed to do for people who don't have a place to go, that we can accept into this shelter or the other shelter for varying reasons. We had a gentleman last weekend who was very much at risk, who couldn't go to either shelter. Crisis didn't have the resources to put him up, and so he was outside, and it was very high risk. So we struggle with that every day.
Bangor is clearly the service center for northern and eastern Maine. When things are tough in Washington County, when things are tough in Piscataquis County, we feel it in Bangor because people have to go where the services are. You know, there aren't great numbers of identified homeless in the outlying counties. You can't stick around long enough to be labeled homeless if there aren't services. You have to go where they are, or you somehow blend in a different way. Clearly, the issue of homelessness exists across the state. It's just we serve it differently depending on where we are in the state.
What my life was like before the shelter, I was in a bad space, and I pretty much had to do something or else I felt I was going to die at my own hands. So I packed 2 bags of clothes, sold my guitar, and bought a one-way ticket to Bangor, Maine. I took a cab to the police station and asked them where the nearest shelter was. The director was more than understanding to a point. I was still in active addiction, but while I was here, they gave me an opportunity to better myself. They told me things that I know were hard for them to say, and it was definitely hard for me to hear. They helped me to understand that, you know, just because times are hard doesn't mean that you can give up and go out and use. I had to learn how to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. The staff members here encouraged me to sit with that uncomfortability. They challenged me. They did what I know was hard for them. I was asked to leave, you know, because I was still using. But in retrospect, I completely understand that it was exactly what I needed to hear. What they did for me was a service. If they had allowed me to continue to do what I was doing, then they would have done me a disservice. They were trying to help me understand that, hey, you need to hold yourself accountable. Change comes from within. Change is hard, okay? It's not easy. But if you want it bad enough, you'll find a way to get it. When I left the shelter, I was so proud to have this little efficiency apartment. It was mine, you know. Through the Career Center, who I'm working closely with, I have the credentials to work at Acadia or CHNCS. So if anybody had told me 2 years ago that I would be where I am right now, I would have laughed you right out of the room. One of the things that I want to do is give back. I remember one year I spent Thanksgiving and Christmas here. I didn't have a whole lot of winter clothes. Some very wonderful people, I never knew who they were, but brought some scarves, some gloves, coats, socks, and that meant the world, you know, to me, to be able to stay warm. I know what it's like to go without, and my heart goes out to the people who don't have that. I just want to give them some hope. I look back at where I was and where I am now, working, getting off of Social Security, making my own way, and it was a network of people, you know. It literally took a community that cared. It brings joy, tears of joy, and triumph to me to know that in little Bangor, Maine, that there are people who care.
A lot of things that I thought I knew about homelessness have been completely disproven to me. Actually spending time at the shelter, talking with the guests there, it's really opened my eyes in a lot of really wonderful ways. The shelter serves not only the guests who come and stay there and use their services, but the shelter also serves the greater community, the folks who may have a house but not want to have homeless people sleeping in the woods behind their house, the business who doesn't want a homeless person sleeping on the doorstep out in front of their business. These are all issues that we would face more of in this region if we didn't have shelters like the Bangor Area Homeless Shelter to take care of these folks and to help get them back on their feet.
I think the reason that general assistance requests have gone up in the city of Bangor and across the state, you only have to look at the Department of Labor statistics on unemployment. The people that are on the margins, typically do have poor work histories, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, all those kinds of things. And when the economy hits a bump, like it did, 5 years ago, those people are the first ones to be let go and the last ones to re-engage. They're the ones that don't have the reserves. And also, when these things happen, they're the ones that feel the stress first. And that stress can then lead to an exacerbation of their underlying mental health issues. So it's sort of a vicious circle that they get caught in that they didn't start. Not that they don't have responsibilities in that, but it's really hard to get out of that when the economy around them is so fragile. They are like the canaries, I think, in the mine. What happens with them really says how well we are doing economically, how well we are doing as a society. When those numbers go up, it says something about the rest of the world as much as it says something about the people that are walking through the door.
Before I came to the shelter, I moved around a lot because my parents moved around a lot. I was a little kid. Wherever the work took us. My dad was raised in Starks on a dairy farm. My dad was in the picture for a while, but my mom and dad got divorced. Me and my mom stayed together pretty much a lot. We didn't have a lot of money. I was going to Liberating Job Corps at the time, studying culinary arts. The reason I ended up here was because we basically had nowhere else to go. We were basically out, family. We were homeless. That was the bottom line, that we were homeless. It's either here or the streets of Bangor. So the day me and my mom came to the shelter, the day we knocked on the door, pretty much Holly, she pretty much took us in. We did all the paperwork. Then they told us if we had any beds, to let us know. And then basically a few days later, they accepted us and we moved in. And the first day was pretty nerve-wracking because I'd never been to a homeless shelter before. I've never really been technically homeless. We didn't know nobody. But as time went on, we got to know people. We talked to people. We made friends here. We get breakfast at 6 a.m., then lunch at noon, and then dinner at 5 o'clock. And then they took us upstairs. You could watch TV, read a book. My most recent job, which I was laid off a few years back, was at the Mount Pleasant Cemetery. I was mowing lawns, trimming the graves. I did a funeral every once in a while. Different, groundskeeping stuff. I had that job 4 years, so yeah. I'm looking for work right now. I'm working at the Career Center. I'm in what they call vocational rehab. They help you get back into the workforce and stuff like that. So if I could choose what I would like to do for work, probably something in the food industry, since I have some experience in culinary arts where I took at Job Corps. So something in the food industry, dishwashing, something like that, cook, stuff like that. Probably dishwashing because I had more experience in that. So something in the food industry, probably one of the restaurants around town. So that's what I'm looking for.